The photographer's call came 6 months after my son's wedding. I was on the porch, coffee going cold in my hand, watching magpies argue over territory near the barn. Late May morning, but the wind still had teeth. "Mr. Douglas," Iris said. Her voice had that careful tone people use when they're about to break something. "I need to show you the wedding photos. Not the ones I delivered, the background details." My gut tightened. You live 70 years, you learn that tone. There's something in the wide shots. Your daughter-in-law and her brother reviewing documents during the reception. Property documents. "And sir," she paused, "the metadata says they took reconnaissance photos of your ranch 4 months before your son even proposed." I set down the cup. Coffee sloshed over the rim, stained the porch boards dark. 2 weeks earlier, a property tax bill had arrived. Wrong names. Cole and Vanessa Douglas, owners. My name gone like it never existed. The county clerk said I'd signed a quitclaim deed December 28th, 3 weeks after the wedding. I stared at my signature on that deed. It looked right, felt wrong. That's when I understood. My son hadn't just married a woman. He'd married a thief with a blueprint. The wedding happened first week of December. First real snow of the season, flakes fat and slow, landing on my Ellen's rose bushes like they'd been invited. I wore the same bolo tie I'd worn when Cole graduated high school. Turquoise and silver, Ellen's favorite. My hands shook tying it that morning, not from age, from pride. 320 acres of Madison Valley stretched behind the ranch house. Tobacco root mountains, rising purple in the distance. My grandfather cleared this land with a mule and determination in 1947. My father died, checking on a sick calf in the north pasture. Ellen's ashes are scattered by the creek. When Cole asked to hold the ceremony here, I damn near cried. The guests gathered near the barn, breath fogging in the cold air. Folding chairs arranged in neat rows, white ribbon fluttering. Wood smoke curled from the fire pits we'd set up for warmth. I could smell cedar burning, mixed with the diesel from the generator running the string lights. Cole stood under the arch we'd built from lodgepole pine, fidgeting with his cufflinks. 35 years old, civil engineer up in Billings, wearing his grandfather's pocket watch. Good man. Steady, the kind who measures twice, cuts once. Then Vanessa walked down the aisle, and I'll admit, she looked beautiful. White dress, catching the snowflakes, dark hair pulled back, smile bright enough to melt ice. Cole's face when he saw her. That's what a father works his whole life to see. Her brother Marcus stood beside her. Tall, polished, carried himself like he owned things. He'd driven in from Ennis where he ran some title company. During the ceremony, I noticed him photographing everything with fancy equipment. Had a surveyor's transit set up near the barn. For level shots, he explained when I asked. Vanessa wants everything documented perfectly. Made sense at the time. The reception moved inside the barn. We'd cleared it out, hung more lights, set up tables with red-checked cloths Ellen had saved for special occasions. Fiddle music echoed off the rafters. Roy Tate, my neighbor for 40 years, clapped me on the back so hard I nearly spilled my drink. "Your boy done good, Hank," Roy said. His weathered face split in a grin. "Even if she is a city girl." I watched Vanessa move through the crowd. She asked about everything. When was the new barn built? What year did we drill the deep well? How many acres under irrigation? Figured she was just interested in ranch life, trying to connect with Cole's history. Marcus photographed the buildings methodically, every angle, wrote notes in a small leather book. Iris Chen, the photographer we'd hired, worked quietly. She'd come, recommended from Bozeman, did documentary work, had kind eyes. She set up in corners, captured moments people didn't know they were making. Late in the evening, I saw Marcus and Vanessa step outside during the toast. Through the barn door, I watched them huddle near his truck, reviewing papers spread across the hood. Documents, maps maybe. Iris noticed too. I caught her frowning, camera lowered. But then Cole pulled me into a dance, and I forgot about it. My son was happy. That's what mattered. The snow kept falling, soft and pure, covering everything in white. The way lies do before you know their lies. 6 months later, the envelope arrived with Madison County's return address. Property tax assessment. I opened it standing by the mailbox, gravel crunching under my boots as I shifted weight. Cole and Vanessa Douglas, owners. My name wasn't on it. I read it 3 times. Turned it over. Checked the address. 320 Douglas Ranch Road. My address, their names. The coffee I'd drunk that morning turned sour in my gut. Inside the house, I called the county office. Phone rang 4 times. A woman answered, voice cheerful and bureaucratic. "Madison County Assessor, this is Julie. This is Henry Douglas." I received a property tax bill with the wrong names on it. Keys clicking in the background. Address, 320 Douglas Ranch Road. More clicking, a pause. Douglas, our records show ownership transferred December 28th of last year. You executed a quitclaim deed gifting the property to Cole and Vanessa Douglas. My hand tightened on the phone. I never signed any quitclaim deed. Sir, it's notarized and filed. Would you like the filing number? I want to see it. Courthouse is open until 4. Records are public. I drove the 40 minutes to Virginia City with the radio off. The silence felt like pressure in my ears. Spring runoff had the Madison River running high and brown. Meadowlarks sang from fence posts. Everything looked normal. Everything felt wrong. The courthouse smelled like old paper and floor wax. Diana Frost, the county clerk, knew me from livestock auctions. She saw my face and her professional smile faded. Hank, you hear about the deed? Show me. She pulled it from the files with careful hands. The paper crackled. There was my signature. Perfect. Right down to the way I looped the H and flattened the tail on the G. Dated December 28th. Notarized by Marcus Klein. My breath came shallow. Diana, I never signed this. She leaned in close, voice dropping. Between you and me, the notary seal looks off to me. But I need proof, not instinct. How long do I have to challenge it? Her face went sad. 30 days from filing, statute of limitations. The numbers clicked cold in my head. December 28th to now was 5 months. I was 27 days past the deadline. The clerk said I had 30 days to challenge a fraudulent deed. It had been 27, and I didn't even know it existed. I stood in that courthouse for what felt like an hour, staring at the signature. Diana left me alone with it. Professional courtesy, maybe, or pity. The paper felt brittle under my fingers, old but not old enough. The ink was black, sharp, no fading. The notary seal pressed deep into the fiber. An official stamp that said this was real, this was legal, this was done. But I didn't do it. My phone buzzed. Cole's name on the screen. I let it ring out. What would I say? Your wife stole our land? Your new brother-in-law forged my signature? Son, the woman you love is a criminal? Outside, the spring wind rattled the courthouse windows. The glass was original, wavy with age, distorting the view of Main Street. Hank, Diana appeared in the doorway. You should talk to a lawyer. You know any? Jim Bartlett does property law. Office is 2 blocks down. I nodded. Folded the photocopy she'd made me. The paper creased wrong, wouldn't lay flat in my pocket. Jim Bartlett's office smelled like leather and old books. He was younger than me by a decade, reading glasses perched on a round face. He looked at the deed copy for maybe 30 seconds before setting it down. When did you find out about this? Today. And the filing date is December 28th. Yes. He removed his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose. Mr. Douglas, Montana statute on contesting property deeds is 30 days from the date of filing. I know. It's been... He checked his computer. 147 days. The number hit like a fist. So I'm too late. Unless you can prove the forgery occurred and was discovered within 30 days of recordation, yes. The deed is legally valid. Even if you can prove fraud now, Montana courts consider a filed, notarized deed presumptively valid after the challenge window closes. My hands gripped the chair arms. Smooth wood, worn by how many other people getting bad news. There has to be something. You can file a criminal complaint for forgery, get law enforcement involved, but that's a separate process. Won't automatically void the deed. He leaned forward. Without evidence of forgery at the time of filing, Montana law considers this deed valid, forever. Your land is legally theirs. The word forever echoed in my skull. Typically, Bartlett continued, these schemes involve financial desperation. Someone overleveraged, facing foreclosure. They see a family asset and he gestured at the deed. The window for civil challenges is deliberately short to prevent property title uncertainty. It's meant to protect good faith transfers. This wasn't good faith. No. But proving that after the fact is nearly impossible without documentary evidence from December. Do you have anything? Witnesses who can place you somewhere else on the signing date? Medical records? Alibi. December 28th, 3 weeks after the wedding. I tried to remember. I was here, on my ranch, alone, like always. Bartlett's expression said everything. The notary is her brother, I said. Marcus Klein. Owns Klein Title and Trust in Ennis. That's suspicious but not illegal. Family members can notarize documents in Montana. He pulled up something on his computer. Marcus Klein is a registered notary, active license. If he's lying about witnessing your signature, that's a felony. But you'd need to prove it. And the air in the office felt too warm. My collar too tight. What about the land itself? My voice came out rough. I've paid property taxes for 40 years. I've got receipts, records. All that proves is you owned it, not that you didn't give it away. Bartlett's tone was gentle but firm. A quitclaim deed is designed to be simple. No consideration required. No questions asked. You can gift property to anyone, anytime. The state assumes competent adults understand what they're signing. I stood. The chair scraped loud on the hardwood floor. So they just take it, and I'm supposed to accept that. I'm sorry, Mr. Douglas. I really am. If you can find evidence of the forgery, something concrete, time-stamped, documentary, we might have grounds to file. But right now, you're fighting a legal document with your word, and your word missed the deadline by 4 months. I walked out into the afternoon sun. Main Street was quiet. A dog barked somewhere. Car doors slammed at the grocery across the street. Normal sounds of a normal day in a normal town where normal laws said I'd given away my family's land. The lawyer said without evidence of forgery at the time of filing, Montana law considers this deed valid forever. Your land is legally theirs. I sat in my truck for 20 minutes before I could trust myself to drive. I drove home through the valley with the windows down, cold air burning my lungs. Needed to feel something besides the numbness spreading through my chest. The Madison River ran high with snowmelt, muddy and violent. Nothing pure about spring runoff. It tears things loose. At home, I sat on the porch until dark. Didn't eat, didn't call Cole. Just watched the light die behind the mountains and tried to figure out how a man proves he didn't do something. The phone rang at 8, unknown number. I nearly didn't answer. Mr. Douglas? This is Iris Chen, the photographer from the wedding. I straightened. Yes. I hope this isn't overstepping. Her voice was careful, professional. But I heard through the grapevine, small towns, you know, that there's some trouble with your property deed. News travels. Diana Frost and I serve on the Historical Society board together. She's worried about you. A pause. Mr. Douglas, I noticed something at the wedding. Background activity in some of the wide shots. Your daughter-in-law and her brother reviewing documents during the reception. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now my hand tightened on the phone. What kind of documents? I couldn't see clearly, but they were definitely papers. Spread out on a truck hood, very focused, not casual. She hesitated. I also noticed your daughter-in-law photographing every building on your ranch. Systematically, every angle. It struck me as odd for a bride on her wedding day. The memory clicked into place. Vanessa with her phone, circling the barn, the equipment shed, the house. I thought she was just excited. Mr. Douglas, I keep everything. Full resolution raw files, metadata, timestamps. It's standard practice for my documentary work. If something happened at that wedding, the camera saw it. The tightness in my chest loosened half a degree. You're saying you have proof of something. I'm saying I have data. Whether it's proof of anything relevant, I don't know yet. But I'd like to review the files more carefully. With your permission. Why would you do that? Silence for 3 heartbeats. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. 6 years ago, my mother signed papers she didn't understand, reverse mortgage fraud. By the time I found out, they'd taken everything. She died thinking she'd failed, that she'd been stupid. A sharp breath. She wasn't stupid. She was elderly, trusting, and targeted by professionals. I understand elder fraud personally, Mr. Douglas, and I don't like what I saw at your son's wedding. I stared out at the dark fields. Somewhere an owl called, hunting. I'd be grateful, I said finally, for whatever you find. I'll go through everything this week. Raw files, metadata, the works. If there's evidence in those photos, I'll find it. After she hung up, I sat holding the phone. First person who'd believe me without question. First person who offered to help instead of sympathy. Roy Tate's truck pulled up the next morning before I'd finished my coffee. His old Dodge, primer spotted and dented, diesel engine clattering like rocks in a can. He climbed out slow, 72 years, settling heavy in his joints. Coffee still hot? He called. I poured him a cup. We sat on the porch steps, shoulders nearly touching, watching his cattle graze the section that bordered mine. The wind carried the smell of wet earth and manure. Spring in Montana. Heard you had some trouble, Roy said. That what they're calling it. Heard different versions. Thought I'd get it straight from you. And so I told him. The deed, the forged signature, the deadline I'd missed by months. He listened without interrupting, sipping coffee that had gone cold. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then, 1998, some developer out of Helena tried to claim mineral rights on my place. Had papers that looked official. Said my grandfather signed them in the 40s. What happened? Turned out the signature was forged. Grandfather's handwriting was in the county brand registry. Different enough to prove fraud. But it was close, Hank. Real close. And those people were professionals. He set down his cup. Point is, city types think they're smarter than us, think old ranchers are easy targets. Usually they're wrong. Usually. You got any idea why she'd do this? The girl seemed decent at the wedding. Lawyer thinks financial desperation. Over-leveraged, maybe. Saw the land value and got ideas. Roy nodded. Made sense to him. You need help fighting this, you let me know. Land code, we protect our own. Appreciate it, Roy. But this is legal trouble, expensive legal trouble, and I'm not sure I can win. With he stood, knees popping, dumped the cold coffee in the gravel, turned to me with a look I'd seen before when we pulled calves in blizzards or rebuilt fence after storms. The look that says some things you just do. Hank, if this goes to court, I'm putting my place up for your legal fees. Don't argue. Cole called 3 days later. I was in the barn, fixing a gate hinge that didn't need fixing. Just needed my hands busy. The phone buzzed in my pocket, his name on the screen. I'd been avoiding this. Hey, Dad. Son. A pause. Background noise. Office sounds. Keyboards clicking. He was at work. Vanessa told me you've been making some accusations about the property deed. My jaw tightened. Not accusations, questions. She's pretty upset. Said you went to the courthouse, talked to a lawyer, told people she forged your signature. I didn't tell anyone she did anything. I said I never signed that deed. Dad, his voice shifted, took on that careful tone. The one you use with children or people who aren't thinking straight. Vanessa showed me the paperwork. Your signature is right there. It's notarized. Legal. I know what it looks like. Then what's the problem? I set down the wrench. Metal clanged against concrete. The problem is, I didn't sign it, Cole. I don't remember signing it because it never happened. Silence on his end. Too long. When he spoke again, the careful tone had deepened. Dad, Vanessa mentioned you seemed confused at Christmas, asking her the same questions twice, forgetting conversations. My chest went cold. That's a lie. She's worried about you. I'm worried about you. He exhaled slowly. Memory issues run in families. Grandpa had them toward the end. Remember, he'd forget entire days. Mom used to have to write everything down for him. Don't do this. Dad, there's no shame in it. It happens. But you can't go around accusing people of fraud when you might just be... He stopped himself. When I might just be what? Senile? Losing my mind? I didn't say that. You didn't have to. My hand shook on the phone. I pressed it against my leg to steady it. Cole, I'm asking you to trust me. Something's wrong with that deed. I trust you, Dad, but I also trust my wife. And she's under a lot of financial pressure at work. She doesn't need this stress right now. Maybe you should see someone. Get checked out for us. Please. The barn suddenly felt too small. Dust motes hung in the shaft of light from the window. Peaceful. Wrong. You think I'm crazy? I think you might need help. His voice cracked a little, and I think you should apologize to Vanessa before this gets worse. He hung up before I could respond. I stood there holding the dead phone, listening to my heart hammer against my ribs. The barn smelled like old hay and motor oil and 40 years of my life. Everything familiar, everything tilting. 2 days later, Cole's truck pulled into the driveway. I was on the porch, watching thunderheads build over the mountains. Spring storms coming. I could smell the ozone, that metallic bite before rain. Vanessa sat in the passenger seat. They climbed out together. Cole's face was set, determined. Vanessa wore sunglasses despite the clouds, a professional mask. She carried a leather folder under her arm. Dad, we need to talk. Cole's voice was firm. Engineer voice. Problem-solving voice. Come on up. They sat in Ellen's rocking chairs. I stayed standing, leaned against the porch rail. Vanessa opened the folder, pulled out papers. Neat stacks. Organized. Mr. Douglas, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Her tone was patient, condescending, like explaining to a slow student. Cole and I have been making improvements to the ranch. We installed the new irrigation system last fall. We paid for the roof repairs on the equipment shed. We even covered the property taxes when you forgot. I didn't forget. She produced receipts, pointed to dates, amounts. These are our expenses. Over $40,000 invested in this property. The deed transfer was discussed with you at Thanksgiving. You agreed it made sense for estate planning purposes? Lies. Smooth, documented lies. I never agreed to any transfer. Cole leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Dad, you did. We talked about it in November. You said it was a good idea to get everything in our names early, avoid probate later. That never happened. You were sitting right there. He pointed to my chair. We had coffee. You said Mom would have wanted this, that she'd want the ranch in good hands. My breath came shallow. I tried to remember November, Thanksgiving. Had we talked about the deed? No. We talked about... What had we talked about? The weather, Cole's work, Vanessa's real estate sales. Hadn't we? Dad, look at me. Cole's eyes were worried, sad. You're forgetting things. It's okay. We'll figure it out together. But you can't keep accusing Vanessa. It's not fair to her. Vanessa's expression was perfect. Concerned, hurt, forgiving. Mr. Douglas, I love your son. I love this ranch. I would never do anything to hurt you. I think you're just confused about the timeline. The clouds were moving fast overhead, wind picking up. I gripped the porch rail, felt the wood grain under my palms, real, solid, but everything else felt like it was sliding. I'd like you both to leave. Cole stood. Dad, please, just go. They exchanged a glance, some silent communication between husband and wife. Vanessa gathered her papers carefully, precisely. Cole hesitated at the steps. We want to help you, but we can't if you won't admit there's a problem. They drove away as the first drops started falling. Cold rain, spring rain, washing nothing clean. I sat in Ellen's rocker after they left. The rain came harder, drumming on the tin roof, soaking the fields. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. My son said memory issues run in families. Maybe you should see someone? For us. What if he was right? What if I was losing my mind and didn't even know it? I didn't sleep that night. Lay in bed, listening to the rain hammer the roof, replaying every conversation from November. Had we talked about the deed? Had I agreed to something and forgotten? Ellen's photo sat on the nightstand. She smiled out at me, young and certain. I used to know things like she did, used to trust my own mind. At 4:30 I gave up, pulled on jeans, boots, my work jacket. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with it. Everything dripped. The porch boards were slick under my feet. I made coffee I didn't drink, watched the sky lighten from black to gray. The mountains emerged slowly, still snow-capped, but melting. Spring eating winter from the bottom up. By 6 I was in the barn, saddling Rusty. My gelding, 17 years old, steady as a rock. He turned his head, blew warm air on my shoulder while I tightened the cinch. The leather creaked, familiar. My hands knew this work even if my mind felt uncertain. Need to check fence, I told him, like he cared about my reasons. The saddle leather was cold and damp under me. Rusty picked his way through the mud, past the equipment shed toward the north pasture. The ground had that spring smell, thawing earth, manure, wet grass trying to grow. Magpies called their territorial warnings. A hawk circled high, hunting. The fence line ran 5 miles, marking where my land met Roy's. I rode it slow, checking posts, looking for winter damage. But really I was just moving. Letting the rhythm of the horse settle something inside me that words couldn't reach. My grandfather used to say you can't think straight standing still. That's why he walked his fields every morning, even when there was nothing to check. The land talks to you if you listen, not with words, with what's there and what's not. Near the northeast corner, something caught my eye. A flash of color that didn't belong. I reined Rusty over, dismounted, boots sinking in the mud, a survey stake. Bright orange plastic flag on a metal rod driven deep into my ground. Fresh, no rust, no weather damage. The mud around it was disturbed, boot prints half melted by rain. I knelt, touched it. The metal was cold, clean, recently placed. The flag had writing and marker, Klein Title and Trust, N47. My breath came faster. I pulled my phone, took photos from 3 angles. The stake, the flag, the boot prints. Then I grabbed the rod and yanked. It came up hard, suction fighting me, but I got it free. 50 yards down the fence line, another one. Klein Title and Trust, N48. I rode the whole boundary, found 7 stakes total, all fresh, all marked with Marcus's company name. All on my side of the property line. They'd surveyed my land, without permission, without me knowing. Sometime in the last few weeks, while I'd been questioning my own sanity. The cold clarity that settled over me felt like armor locking into place. I wasn't crazy. They were criminals. That evening, my phone rang. Diana Frost. Her voice was low, nervous. Hank, I'm calling from home, on my personal cell. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but I did something I probably shouldn't have. A pause. I heard a door close, like she was moving into another room. I pulled all of Marcus Klein's filings from the past 5 years, on my own time. Technically public record, but still. I set down my coffee, and there's a pattern. 23 property transfers in his office, all to family members, all quitclaim deeds, all filed within days of each other, then spread out in the system. Papers rustled on her end. Most are probably legitimate, but the volume is unusual. And Hank, I examined your deed under magnification today. My chest tightened. What did you find? The notary seal is wrong. Wrong how? It's an Oregon state seal, not Montana. She said it carefully, letting each word land. Marcus Klein has a Montana notary registration. Active, current, legitimate. But the seal impression on your deed is from Oregon. Different design, different registration number format. I stood up, too restless to sit. What does that mean? It means either he used an expired seal from when he lived in Oregon, or he bought a fake seal. Either way, it's a felony. You can't notarize a Montana document with an out-of-state seal. It invalidates the notarization. And without valid notarization, the deed shouldn't have been filed. Would you testify to that? Long silence. Rain started again, pattering soft on the windows. When Diana spoke, her voice was steady but scared. If I testify, I could lose my job. The county elected officials don't like clerks who make waves, and Marcus Klein does business with a lot of powerful people in Ennis. She breathed out slow. But I didn't take this position to certify lies. I'll do it. If you file a formal complaint, I'll testify about the seal. Diana. I know every legitimate seal in this county, Hank. I've been doing this work for 19 years. I examined thousands of notarizations. That seal is wrong, and I can prove it. Her voice firmed up. My mother taught me that the truth costs something. If it didn't, everyone would tell it. After we hung up, I walked out to the porch. The rain was gentle now, spring rain, soaking into ground that needed it. The fields looked dark and rich. In another month, they'd be green. I had photographs of survey stakes on my land. I had a county clerk willing to testify about a forged seal. I had a photographer reviewing evidence from the wedding. Small pieces, but pieces that fit together. The lawyer had said I needed documentary evidence from December. Time-stamped, concrete. Maybe I had more than I thought. I pulled one of the survey stakes from where I'd left it on the porch, turned it in my hands. The orange flag snapped in the wind. Klein title and trust and permanent marker. Evidence that Marcus Klein had been on my property without permission. Evidence that they were planning something more than just stealing paper. Diana whispered, if I testify, I could lose my job, but I didn't take this position to certify lies. I'll do it. The next morning, I drove into town for supplies. Needed fence staples, a new gate latch, salt blocks for the cattle. Normal errands, but Mel's Diner sits next to the feed store, and coffee sounded good. The bell jangled when I pushed through the door. Breakfast rush, mostly over. A few ranchers lingered over coffee, old-timers in worn Carhartt jackets and cat diesel caps. The air smelled like bacon grease and burned coffee, warm and familiar. Roy sat at the counter, waved me over. I grabbed a stool beside him. Morning, Hank. Sheila brought coffee without asking. She'd been pouring coffee here since before Cole was born. Morning. I wrapped my hands around the mug. The ceramic was hot, almost too hot, but I held on anyway. Needed something to grip. 2 stools down, Pete Harmon and his son Tommy were talking low. Pete ran cattle on the bench land east of town. Tommy worked construction in Bozeman, drove down on weekends. They glanced at me, then away quick. Heard he's been making accusations, Tommy said. Not quite a whisper. Against his own daughter-in-law. Pete shook his head. Sad thing. Roy's jaw tightened. He set down his mug hard. You got something to say, Pete? Say it to his face. Pete turned on his stool, looked at me direct. Hank, I'm sorry about your troubles. But my daughter knows Vanessa from real estate circles, says she's good people, works hard, honest. That right? My voice came out flat. I'm just saying, sometimes when a man gets older... Pete stopped himself. Hell, Hank. No offense meant. Oh, none taken. I sipped the coffee, burned my tongue. Tommy leaned forward. My grandpa went the same way. Forgot whole conversations, insisted things happened that never did. It's nobody's fault. And the diner went quiet. 6 pairs of eyes on me, some sympathetic, some uncomfortable. All of them making calculations about who to believe. I set down the mug carefully. My mind's fine. Course it is, Pete said quickly, too quickly. Roy stood up slow. 60 years of ranch work made him solid, made his movements deliberate. Or maybe you don't know a con when you see one. City girl marries into a ranch family, 6 months, suddenly owns the place? That don't strike you as convenient? Roy, Pete started. She's trying to help her husband. A younger voice cut in. Sarah Mitchell, waiting tables, 25 maybe. My generation sees it different. Marriage is partnership. Maybe Mr. Douglas signed that deed and forgot. Old people forget things. The words hung there. Old people, like I wasn't sitting right in front of her. That's enough, Roy's voice carried weight. Hank's been riding fence and working cattle since before you were born, Sarah. Show some respect. I just meant. I know what you meant. I stood, left money on the counter, walked out while they were still arguing about me like I wasn't there. Outside, the air was cold. Mud season in full swing now. The street was half-frozen puddles and brown slush. My truck was parked at an angle, one tire in standing water. Roy followed me out. Don't listen to them. They're entitled to their opinion. Their opinion's horse shit. He spit in the mud. You're not crazy, Hank, and that girl's lying. You believe me? I've known you 40 years. You ain't never lied to me once. Not about fences, not about cattle, not about anything. And he squinted at the mountains. Besides, I did some asking around. Vanessa Klein owns 3 rental properties in Ennis, all mortgaged heavy. Word is she's over-leveraged. Behind on payments. My gut tightened. How far behind? Banks sent foreclosure notices on 2 of them last month. Roy pulled his truck keys from his pocket. A woman desperate enough to lose everything is desperate enough to do anything, including marry into money. A younger rancher said maybe the old man did sign and forgot. My grandpa went the same way. I drove home with the window down, freezing air clearing my head. Iris called that afternoon. Mr. Douglas, I need to show you something. Can I come by? When? I'm already 10 minutes out. She pulled up in a Subaru wagon, camera bags filling the back seat, climbed out with a laptop under one arm, a folder under the other. Her dark hair was pulled back, work mode. She looked like someone who'd been up all night. Let's sit inside, I said. The kitchen table was where Ellen used to balance the ranch books, where Cole learned to do homework. Iris spread out her materials carefully, opened the laptop, clicked through folders. I went through everything from the wedding, every frame, every burst, 1,200 photos total. She pulled up an image. The barn, guests mingling, string lights glowing. This is from the reception. Background, near Marcus's truck. She zoomed in, the image pixelated, then sharpened. Vanessa and Marcus, heads together, papers spread on the truck hood. The papers were clearly visible now. Maps, documents with official-looking headers. Property documents, what I said. Gets better. She opened another file. I shoot in RAW format. Preserves all the metadata, time, date, camera settings, GPS coordinates. Can't be altered without leaving traces. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. The wedding was December 7th, correct? Yes. Look at these. She pulled up a series of photos. My barn, from multiple angles. The equipment shed, the house, the well house. Close-ups of fence posts, gate hardware, even the brand burned into my barn door. These photos of your ranch buildings, Vanessa took them. I remember. Thought she was just interested. Look at the metadata. Iris pointed to lines of text at the bottom of the screen. These weren't taken in December. My heart kicked harder. When? August 14th. She let that sink in. Your son proposed December 2nd, right? You told me that. Yes. These photographs were taken 4 months before he proposed. 4 months before she agreed to marry him. Iris pulled up more images. Systematic documentation. Every structure, every angle. Notes visible in some frames about measurements, construction dates, improvements. The room tilted. I gripped the table edge. She was documenting your property before she ever agreed to marry him, Mr. Douglas. Iris's voice was gentle but firm. This wasn't opportunistic fraud after a wedding. This was a plan. She researched your ranch, assessed its value, documented everything, and then cultivated a relationship with your son to gain access. I stared at the timestamps. August 14th, 2023. Over and over, hundreds of photos, professional, methodical, cold. Cole introduced them in July, I said slowly. He'd only known her a month before these photos. Then she moved fast. Iris clicked to another folder. There's more. I found photos of Marcus with surveying equipment in August, too. Not just at the wedding. He was on your property months earlier. They scouted it. They scouted it. She closed the laptop. Looked at me direct. Mr. Douglas, this is premeditation. This is conspiracy. Your daughter-in-law didn't fall in love and opportunistically steal your land. She targeted your son specifically because he was your heir. She researched the property value, documented everything for future title claims, and executed a plan that took months. My breath came shallow. The kitchen smelled like old coffee and the lilacs Ellen planted 40 years ago, blooming outside the window. Spring smells, life continuing while everything burned. Can you testify to this in court? Every photo is timestamped and GPS tagged. I can provide expert testimony about metadata authentication. This evidence is admissible. She opened the folder, pulled out printed copies. Contact sheets, timestamps enlarged, GPS coordinates listed. I've already organized it for legal presentation. I looked at the prints, my barn in August. Vanessa's thin smile as she photographed my life's work like an assessor cataloging inventory. Why would she keep these photos? I asked. Why not delete them? Arrogance. Iris's voice was hard. She thought she was smarter than everyone. Thought she'd covered her tracks. Criminals always think they're the smartest person in the room, right up until they're not. Iris zoomed in on the metadata. This photo of your barn? August 14th. Your son proposed December 2nd. She was documenting your property before she ever agreed to marry him. After Iris left, I sat at the kitchen table until the light changed. The printed photos spread in front of me like evidence at a crime scene, which is what they were. I had everything now. The forged seal, the trespass documentation, the metadata proving premeditation, Diana willing to testify, Roy backing legal fees, Iris ready to authenticate evidence. I could win. But winning meant standing in a courtroom and proving my son's wife was a criminal. Meant watching Cole hear the truth in public. Meant destroying his marriage. Maybe destroying our relationship permanently. He'd chosen her already. Suggested I needed cognitive evaluation. Looked at me with pity. What if I filed these papers and he never forgave me? The clock ticked loud on the wall. Ellen's clock. The one that never kept perfect time, but we'd never fix because she liked it that way. Said perfect things were boring. I gathered the photos. Drove to the cemetery while I still had light. The Madison Valley Cemetery sits on a hill overlooking the river. Spring grass was coming in green between the headstones. Daffodils bloomed yellow at the entrance, planted by the Historical Society every year. Ellen's stone was simple granite. Her name, her dates, and the line she'd picked herself. She loved this valley. I had scattered most of her ashes by the creek on the ranch. But she wanted a marker here too. Said people need places to visit, to remember. I sat on the ground beside her stone. The earth was damp, soaking through my jeans, cold. The smell of mud and new grass, spring trying to cover winter's damage. Elle, I said to the granite, I don't know what to do. The wind moved through the cottonwoods at the cemetery edge. Somewhere a meadowlark sang, evening coming on. I've got proof now, real proof. The photographer found pictures from August, 4 months before Cole proposed. She was scouting our land like a hunter studies terrain before the kill. A hawk circled overhead, hunting rabbits probably, the world continuing its business while I sat talking to Stone. Diana found the forged seal. Marcus used an Oregon stamp on Montana papers, felony, and those survey stakes. They trespassed on our land, planned this whole thing. My voice cracked. I can prove everything. But proving it meant filing papers, going to court, making Cole listen to evidence that his wife married him for access to property, that she never loved him, that their whole relationship was strategy. If I do this, he'll hate me. The words came out rough. He thinks I'm losing my mind, thinks I'm the problem. When the truth comes out, when he has to face that he was wrong about her, that he chose her over me, I couldn't finish. Put my hand on the cold stone instead. But if I don't, I break the promise I made you, that I'd keep the ranch for him, that I'd protect our legacy. My throat tightened. Which betrayal do I choose? The stone didn't answer. Ellen never answered easy questions anyway. She'd ask what I already knew, make me work it out myself. I closed my eyes, felt the wind, the damp ground, the cooling air as the sun dropped behind the mountains. What would she say? She'd say, the boy needs protecting whether he knows it or not. She'd say, truth costs something, but lies cost more. She'd say, you don't let predators have your land just because they married into the family. She'd also say, be gentle with him when it breaks. He's gonna need you. I stayed until dark, until the stars came out bright and cold, until I knew what I had to do, even if it hurt. On the drive home, I called Jim Bartlett's office. Got his voicemail. Jim, it's Hank Douglas. I've got new evidence. Documentary evidence with timestamps. I need to file that fraud complaint. Call me tomorrow. Then I called Roy. You still willing to help? Thought you'd never ask. I'm going to need you, Diana, and Iris at the ranch tomorrow evening. We need to prepare testimony. Get everything organized for the filing. We'll be there. I hung up, drove the last few miles home in silence. The ranch appeared in my headlights, barn solid and dark, house waiting, mountains black against the stars. 320 acres of memory and work and promises. This land didn't belong to Vanessa Klein. It didn't belong to Marcus. It didn't even belong to me, really. It belonged to my grandfather who cleared it with a mule. To my father who died, checking on cattle. To Ellen, whose ashes fed the grass. To Cole, whether he understood that yet or not. And I'd be damned if I'd let thieves have it without a fight, even if the fight cost me my son. The hearing was set for April 23rd, Madison County Courthouse. Same marble halls where I'd first seen the forged deed. Spring had come full by then. The cottonwoods leafed out, meadowlarks sang territorial claims at dawn, and the ranch was deep in calving season. New life everywhere while I prepared for legal battle. I wore the same bolo tie from Cole's wedding. Seemed right somehow. Roy drove in with me. Diana met us on the courthouse steps, carrying a folder thick with copied documents. Iris pulled up in her Subaru laptop bag over her shoulder. She looked calm, professional, documentary instincts. Ready? Roy asked. No, but we're doing it anyway. The courtroom smelled like old wood and floor polish, high ceilings, tall windows letting in morning light. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. She was younger than me by a decade, had a reputation for no-nonsense rulings and zero patience for liars. Jim Bartlett sat at our table, papers organized in neat stacks. Across the aisle, Marcus Klein's attorney, a sharp-dressed man from Bozeman, shuffled through his own files. Marcus sat beside him, suit too nice for a small-town title company owner, sweating despite the cool air. Vanessa wasn't there. Bartlett had explained she wasn't named in the criminal fraud complaint, just Marcus for the forged notarization. But Cole was there, back row, gallery side. I felt his presence like a weight, didn't turn to look. Judge Morrison called the hearing to order. Her voice echoed off the high ceiling. We're here on the matter of alleged notary fraud regarding a quitclaim deed filed December 28, 2023. Mr. Douglas claims his signature was forged by Mr. Marcus Klein. Mr. Klein maintains the notarization was legitimate. Let's hear evidence. Jim Bartlett stood. Your Honor, we'd like to call Diana Frost, Madison County Clerk. Diana took the stand. Her hands shook slightly as she was sworn in, but her voice came steady. Miss Frost, as County Clerk, you examine notarized documents daily, correct? Yes, thousands per year, 19 years in this position. And you examined the quitclaim deed in question? I did. Diana pulled out a copy, handed it to the judge. The notary seal immediately struck me as incorrect. Incorrect how? It's an Oregon state seal, not Montana. She produced a magnified image, projected it on the courtroom screen. See the design? Oregon uses a circular seal with specific text formatting. Montana uses a rectangular seal with different spacing. This is definitely Oregon registration. While Marcus's attorney stood. Objection. Ms. Frost isn't a forensic expert. She's examined thousands of seals over 2 decades. Judge Morrison cut him off. I'll allow her testimony as an experienced practitioner. Continue, Ms. Frost. Diana breathed steadier. Mr. Klein has a legitimate Montana notary license, active and current, but this seal is from Oregon. Different registration number format, different state identifier. You cannot legally notarize a Montana document with an out-of-state seal. It invalidates the notarization. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Klein, do you have an Oregon notary registration? Marcus's face was pale. I used to when I lived in Portland, but it expired years ago. Then why would you use an expired Oregon seal on a current Montana document? I didn't. Marcus looked at his attorney. It must have been a mistake. I must have grabbed the wrong stamp. You grabbed the wrong stamp while notarizing a deed that transferred 320 acres of land. The judge's tone could cut glass. That's your explanation? Marcus said nothing. Jim called me next. I took the stand, hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, like I'd do anything else. Mr. Douglas, did you sign this quitclaim deed? No, sir. Did you authorize anyone to sign it on your behalf? No, sir. Did you ever discuss transferring property ownership to your son and daughter-in-law? Not the way that deed says. We talked generally about inheritance someday, but I never agreed to sign anything, and I certainly never signed that document. Jim handed me a copy. Is that your signature? I looked at it. 4th time I'd seen it. Still made my stomach turn. It looks like my signature, but I didn't write it. How can you be certain? Because I remember every important document I sign. This isn't age, Mr. Bartlett. This is theft. Marcus's attorney stood for cross-examination, tried to suggest memory problems, confusion, family dynamics. I answered every question the same way, calm, certain. Truth doesn't change when you tell it twice. Then Jim called Iris. She took the stand with her laptop. Professional, precise. A photographer who understood documentation was evidence. Chen, you photographed the December 7th wedding, correct? Yes. And you've reviewed all images from that day? Every frame? Raw format files with complete metadata? She opened her laptop, connected to the courtroom display. I'd like to show several photographs. The screen filled with wedding images. The barn, guests, string lights. Then Iris zoomed in on one frame. Background detail. Vanessa and Marcus at his truck hood, papers spread between them. This was taken during the reception. Background activity I noticed later. Iris clicked to the next image. These papers appear to be property documents, maps, legal forms. Odd thing to review at a wedding, Judge Morrison observed. Yes, Your Honor. Iris pulled up another folder. But this is what concerns me more. The screen showed my barn. Multiple angles. Professional composition, then my equipment shed, the well house, my brand burned into the barn door, systematic documentation. These photographs were taken by Vanessa Klein. I recovered them from camera cards she used when she borrowed equipment from a mutual friend in August. Iris zoomed on the metadata overlay. Look at the timestamps. August 14th, 2023. Image after image. Date stamp clear and undeniable. Mr. Douglas, Judge Morrison said, when did your son propose to Ms. Klein? December 2nd, I said. About 4 months after those photos. The courtroom went silent except for the wall clock ticking. In the back row, I heard Cole shift. A sharp intake of breath. These photographs show systematic documentation of Mr. Douglas's property 4 months before the engagement, Iris continued. Her voice was steady, factual, devastating. Every building, every improvement, boundary markers, water sources, professional assessment. This wasn't casual interest. This was reconnaissance. Judge Morrison leaned back, studied the screen. Ms. Chen, can this metadata be altered? Not without leaving traces. Raw format files preserve original capture data, GPS coordinates, timestamps, camera serial numbers. I can provide expert authentication. That won't be necessary. I believe you. The judge turned to Marcus. Mr. Klein, it appears your sister photographed this property months before the engagement. Did you know about that? Marcus's attorney put a hand on his arm. Don't answer that. I'll take that as a yes. Judge Morrison's expression hardened. The timeline is clear. Documentation in August, engagement in December, questionable deed filed 3 weeks after the wedding, and a forged notary seal tying it all together. She looked at the evidence spread before her. Survey, stakes photographs Roy had submitted, Diana's seal analysis, Iris's metadata reports, my testimony. This isn't a simple paperwork error, this is organized fraud. Judge Morrison's voice rang through the courtroom. Mr. Klein, I'm voiding this quitclaim deed immediately. The property reverts to Henry Douglas, rightful owner. Additionally, I'm referring this matter to the county attorney for criminal prosecution. Forgery, notary fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft. The bailiff moved toward Marcus, handcuffs ready. Marcus stood, face white. Your Honor, please. Save it for your criminal trial. The cuffs clicked shut. Metal on wrist, that sound echoed. I turned then, looked at the back row. Cole sat frozen, his face white, eyes locked on the screen still showing those August photographs. His wife documenting my land before she agreed to marry him. The timeline making sense in ways he didn't want to understand. Our eyes met across the courtroom. He stood, walked out, didn't look back. The judge was saying something about filing procedures, about restored deeds, about justice. But all I heard was the courtroom door closing behind my son. The clerk processed paperwork while Marcus was led out. The handcuffs caught the light from the tall windows. His attorney followed, already on his phone. Damage control, that wouldn't control anything. Jim Bartlett shook my hand. The deed's void. We'll file the restoration paperwork this week. Your land is yours again, Hank. Thank you. Diana hugged me quick. I'm glad the truth came out. Iris packed her laptop carefully. I'll send you copies of everything, for your records. Roy waited until they'd all left. Put a hand on my shoulder. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. We walked out into April sunshine. The courthouse lawn was green, daffodils blooming in neat rows, spring doing what spring does, covering wounds with growth. Cole's truck was gone from the parking lot. I drove home alone. Roy had offered to follow, but I needed the silence. Needed to sort through what winning felt like when it cost this much. The ranch looked the same. Barns standing solid, cattle grazing the south pasture, mountains still purple against the sky. Nothing had changed except everything. I fed the horses, checked water tanks, fixed a loose board on the corral fence, work that needed doing, work that would need doing tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. The land doesn't care about courtroom victories, it just needs tending. That evening, I sat on the porch, coffee going cold in my hand, same as the day this started. 6 months of winter, and fighting, and doubt. 6 months of questioning my own mind. And now it was over. Marcus would face criminal charges. Bartlett said he'd likely get 3 to 5 years for felony forgery. His title company would fold. His notary license revoked permanently. Vanessa had disappeared. Roy heard through the small-town network that she'd left Ennis the day after the hearing. Didn't tell Cole where she was going. Just packed her things from their Billings apartment and vanished. Smart, maybe. The county attorney was building a conspiracy case. She'd be charged eventually. Cole hadn't called. I'd won the land back. Lost my son in the process. The math didn't feel like victory. 3 weeks passed. Calving season hit full stride. I worked 18-hour days pulling calves, checking heifers, moving pairs to fresh grass. The kind of tired that stops thinking. Just hands and work and the rhythm of life, continuing whether you're ready or not. Roy came by most mornings. Brought coffee. Helped with the heavy work. Didn't ask questions I couldn't answer. Good neighbor. Better friend. The daffodils I'd planted on Ellen's grave bloomed yellow and bright. I visited twice a week, told her about the hearing, about Cole's silence, about how doing the right thing felt like punishment. The stone didn't judge, just stood there marking where love had been. On a Tuesday in early May, I was in the barn, fixing tack when I heard a truck in the driveway. Engine sound I'd know anywhere, Cole's F-250 diesel rumbling. My hand stopped working. I set down the leather, walked to the barn door. He climbed out slow, looked like he'd lost weight. Shadows under his eyes, work shirt untucked, boots muddy. He stood by his truck, hand on the door like he wasn't sure he should stay. Dad, son, 30 feet between us. Might as well have been miles. Can we, his voice cracked, can we ride fence like we used to? I nodded. Didn't trust my voice. We saddled horses in silence. Rusty for me, Belle for him. She was his mother's horse, gentle and steady, Remembered him, even after months away. Animals don't forget their people. We rode toward the north pasture. Spring grass was thick now, green and lush. The creek ran high with snowmelt, clear and cold. Magpies called from fence posts. New calves kicked at nothing, drunk on youth. Cole rode beside me, not behind, even distance. His hands on the reins were careful, gentle, engineer hands that knew how to build things, hadn't forgotten how to ride. We reached the spot where I'd found the first survey stake. The hole was still there, mud filling it in slowly, evidence of trespass that didn't matter anymore. Cole dismounted, walked to the spot, stared at it. I should have listened to you. I climbed down, stood beside him. You loved her. That's not something to apologize for. I chose her over you. His voice was raw. You told me something was wrong, and I suggested you were losing your mind. My own father, He stopped, swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Dad. The wind moved through new grass. Somewhere a meadowlark sang. The world continuing its business while we stood in the wreckage. She was good at lying, I said. Professionals always are. I saw those photographs from August, before He couldn't finish. She was planning this before she agreed to marry me. I was just access, just a doorway to what she really wanted. I wanted to say something that would fix it, make it hurt less. But there's no shortcut through this kind of pain. You didn't do anything wrong, I said finally. You loved someone who turned out to be someone else. That's on her, not you. Cole's shoulders shook. He turned away, but I heard it anyway. The sound a man makes when something breaks inside him that he didn't know could break. I put my hand on his shoulder, just stood there, let him feel what he needed to feel. After a while, he straightened, wiped his face rough, looked at me with red eyes. Can I stay here for a while? At the ranch? I can't be in Billings right now. Your room's the same as you left it. I want to help. With calving, with fences, whatever needs doing. His voice steadied. I need to work, need to be useful. Always work on a ranch. We remounted. Rode the fence line slow, checking posts, looking for breaks. Old ritual. Father and son, covering ground together, measuring boundary, making sure everything held. At the northeast corner, we found a post that had heaved in the freeze-thaw. Needed replacing? Cole dismounted without being asked. Pulled tools from his saddlebag. Wire cutters, fence pliers, staples. Muscle memory. We worked side by side. Pulled the old post, tamped dirt around the new one. Cole stretched wire while I stapled it tight. The rhythm came back easy. How many fences had we fixed together when he was young? Hundreds, probably. Teaching him the land, the work, the way things held together if you tended them right. Dad, Cole said when we finished, can we start over? I handed him the wire cutters. The sun was warm now, spring sun with strength behind it. The mountains were clear, snow retreating to just the highest peaks. Everything melting, everything growing. We already did, son. We replaced the broken post where the survey stake had been. Cole tamped the dirt firm, solid, making sure it would hold. When he finished, he stood back, surveyed his work with an engineer's eye. Looks good, I said. Yeah. And he touched the new post, tested its strength. Yeah, it does. We mounted up, turned the horses toward home. The barn was visible across the field, solid and familiar. Smoke from the chimney. I'd left the stove going. Coffee would still be warm. Cole rode beside me, close enough our boots almost touched. The distance closing in ways that mattered. You staying for supper? I asked. If that's okay. Always okay. We rode in silence, but it was different now. Not the silence of broken things. The silence of things healing, of ground tested and holding, of fences mended and foundations that would stand. The ranch stretched around us, 320 acres of memory and work and promises kept. The land that had been stolen and fought for and won back. Not just property, home. And maybe, if we were careful and patient and gentle with each other, we could rebuild what had been fractured. Maybe trust could grow back like spring grass covering winter damage. Maybe some things, once broken, could be made whole again if you were willing to do the work. I sit on the porch most mornings now, watching the sun clear the mountains, coffee steaming in the cold air. May turned to June, and summer's coming on strong. The meadowlarks sing territorial claims from every fence post. In the south pasture, new calves race each other for no reason except the joy of having legs that work. Cole's truck is parked by the barn. He's been here 5 weeks now. Sleeps in his old room, works from sunrise to dark, learning the ranch, again, the way he should have years ago, slower this time. Asking questions instead of assuming answers. Yesterday we moved cattle to summer pasture, just the two of us, horses and dogs, doing work that's been done on this land for 70 years. He sat his saddle better than I expected, muscle memory coming back. He's still an engineer, still measures everything twice, but he's remembering what it means to be a rancher's son. Roy's truck rattles up the driveway most mornings. We drink coffee on the porch, Talk about weather and grass and whether the creek will run dry come August. Normal talk. Good talk. The kind that doesn't need filling with words. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to take it. The survey stakes are gone, burned in the fire pit one evening while Cole and I watched the flames. Smoke carrying lies away. The holes where they stood are filling in with grass. By fall, you won't be able to tell they were ever there. Some scars heal that way, others stay visible. Cole filed for divorce 3 days after the hearing. Vanessa never contested it. Signed the papers from wherever she'd run to, sent them back without a word. The county attorney charged her with conspiracy last week. Warrants out. Eventually they'll find her. Justice works slow, but it works. Marcus got 4 years. Minimum security, but still prison. His title company sold at auction for pennies on the dollar. Roy said, there's satisfaction in that. The tools of fraud sold off to pay debts. I don't feel satisfaction exactly. More like completion. A circle closing. I visit Ellen's grave every week. Bring fresh flowers. Pull weeds. Tell her how Cole's doing. The daffodils I planted are already thinking about next spring, storing energy underground where winter can't touch them. I kept the promise, Elle, I told her last Sunday. Took longer than I hoped, cost more than I wanted, but our boy is home. The wind moved through the cottonwoods. Birds sang. The stone stood solid. Land doesn't lie, Ellen used to say. Paper might, but land doesn't. She was right about that. Right about checking the paper trail. About precision. About measuring twice. Right about most things, if I'm honest. They thought silence was surrender. Turned out it was just preparation. This morning, Cole's up early, making breakfast in the kitchen. I hear him moving around, coffee percolating, bacon in the cast iron. Normal sounds, home sounds. The kind you don't appreciate until they're gone and then returned. The sun's warming the porch boards now. The fields stretch green toward the horizon, grass thick and rich. First cutting of hay will be good this year. The irrigation's running clean, the fences are tight, and the cattle are fat. In the barn, I've got my grandfather's old Transit set up on the workbench. Teaching Cole to use it properly. He wants to survey our exact boundaries, document everything legally. Once an engineer, always an engineer. But he's doing it for the right reasons now. Not to sell, to protect. Some battles you fight for what you own, some you fight for who you love. Best battles are when those are the same thing. The land's still here. 320 acres of Madison Valley. Tobacco Root Mountains, standing watch. My grandfather's work, my father's work, my work. Cole's work now, if he stays. If he learns. I think he will. The screen door creaks open. Cole steps out with 2 plates, eggs and bacon and toast. Hands me one without asking if I'm hungry. Sits beside me on the porch rail, boots scuffed and muddy from morning chores already done. We eat in comfortable silence, watching the day begin. A calf bawls for its mother. The irrigation ditch whispers its constant song. Somewhere a truck engine starts, a neighbor heading to work. Good coffee, I say. Used Mom's old pot, found it in the back of the cabinet. I nod. Ellen's percolator makes coffee strong enough to stand a spoon in, the way she liked it, the way I taught myself to like it after she was gone. Cole finishes his eggs, sets the plate aside. Dad? I was thinking, if you're willing, maybe I could move back, permanently, keep my engineering work remote, help with the ranch. I look at him, really look. He's thinner but stronger, sadder but wiser. The boy who left is gone. The man who came back knows what it costs to lose things. Ranch could use the help, I say. He nods, swallows hard. Yeah, I think I could use the ranch too. The morning stretches out before us. Fence to check, hay to cut, 100 small tasks that add up to keeping a place alive. We'll do them together, father and son, mending what can be mended. Some wounds heal clean, some leave scars, but the land endures. And if you're patient, if you're willing to do the work, what's broken can grow back stronger than it was before. The coffee's good, the sun's warm, my son is home. That's enough.